In this episode, we're going to be talking about how to choose the right nicotine level for your vape. Choosing your nicotine level is going to be much easier after you've already chosen a vape. This way you'll be sure that you're not getting too much nicotine at once or even not enough. Before I show you what nicotine level to start at, I do want to explain the difference between free-base nicotine and salt nicotine. Now, free-base nicotine has been used since the 1960s and it's been used in traditional cigarettes and of course in the vape industry since it started. Free-base nicotine has a stronger throat hit because of its higher pH balance and alkalinity. A lot of people enjoy the throat hit because it helps replicate a cigarette a bit better. And because of this throat hit, the nicotine levels don't go as high as salt nicotine, which you'll see later. So salt nicotine is actually made with benzoic acid, which helps lower its pH balance and alkalinity, giving it a much smoother hit. This allows people to vape at much higher nicotine levels and have less of that throat hit and being overall smoother. Nicotine levels in vape juice are measured in milligram per milliliter, however we usually just refer to them by milligram. Now to start things off with the low power devices. One thing is going to stay the same between every single one of these charts, and it's the fact that if you're not smoking already, don't pick up a nicotine habit. If you want to enjoy vaping for the flavors, there's no reason to start vaping nicotine as well. Now a lot of people coming straight from smoking prefer to use salt nicotine when switching to vaping, however freebase still works great for most people. Now if freebase nicotine just isn't doing it for you in these low power devices, I would recommend trying out salt nicotine. I recommend staying with salt nicotine until you're confident that you're not going to be smoking cigarettes anymore, and then making the jump to freebase nicotine. Now when we get into the medium power devices, this is where freebase nicotine really shines. What you'll start noticing is the fact that the nicotine levels are going down as the power increases. This is pretty much balancing out the amount of nicotine you're intaking with the amount of vapor that's being created. The other thing to note is when you're getting into these medium to high power kits is the fact that you don't really want to use salt nicotine. You don't really want to use any salt nicotine juices above 6 milligram because you're going to be getting way too much nicotine at once. Now it's time to get into the high power devices. High power devices are usually not something I recommend starting out with, however they do make a perfect upgrade. If you're the type of person that wants to be doing vape tricks with a high power device, I really don't recommend going over 3 milligram nicotine. This is also going to be including the people that want to be blowing the biggest cloud possible. When you're getting such a crazy amount of vapor coming in, you definitely don't want to be overloading yourself with nicotine. But as I said previously, everyone does have a different preference, and of course everyone has different tolerances. For some people, the only way that they've been able to stop smoking cigarettes is using a high power device with 6 milligram. Another big thing to note about this chart is when we're talking about people that are smoking well over a pack a day. The reason I put an asterisk next to the 12 is that when you're using 12 milligram at such a high amount of power, it's definitely going to be very, very harsh. 12 milligram nicotine is definitely going to be way too much for most people. I only really recommend using it if 6 is just not doing it for you whatsoever. And remember, this is where I recommend starting, but everyone is a little bit different. What works great for one person might not be perfect for the next. I definitely recommend trying out different vapes at different nicotine levels so you can kind of get a feel of what's going to be right for you. Now that you have a good understanding of the different nicotine levels, it's time to go out and get your first juice.